Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Stampin' Fun Friday. Today I'm going to share ideas on stamping and using ink to create resist techniques for scrapbook page layout. The first thing I'm going to do is I was trying to decide between these two stamps. They're very similar. One just has more of the dark part that I was showing there would be the embossed part, so there would be a lot more white since I'm using a clear embossing powder. I'm using some Nina Solar White Paper cardstock. It's a smooth cardstock and it's a nice weight of a cardstock as well. I use it, it's a recommended cardstock for Copic coloring, stamping and coloring. But I use it for all sorts of things. It's just a great cardstock for stamping on because of the nice smooth surface. So I decided on this particular stamp because the embossed image will be the design you see there, and then I can add ink all around that. So I've stamped it a couple times on this sheet, and now I'm applying some clear embossing powder over the stamped image. I stamped it with some Versamark. I'm going to just kind of get rid of the excess embossing powder there, and then I will heat set that. And there you can see it kind of shiny. It doesn't show up real well yet, but you can see I've embossed it. So I'm going to grab my Big Shot die cutting machine now, and I am going to use the Big's Butterfly die from Sizzix. This is a Stampin' Up! Exclusive steel rule die. And what I'm going to end up doing, I want to use one of the smaller butterflies. There's 4 different ones on this die, but I want to use one of the smaller ones so that I can get 9 butterflies on my layout. So I'm just going to trim the paper there into 4 squares. Each of those stamped images will give me 4, so I ended up needing to stamp it one more time so that I could get my 9 butterfly die cuts. But I'll lay down my clear cutting mat, my die face up. Then I laid down my, I'm going to cut two sheets at once here, and then lay another cutting mat on top. Need to line that up a little bit better. And then I'm going to go ahead and run that through my die cutting machine. And that will give me a couple of butterflies to get started. You can see there that it's die cut those really nicely. And I love that you can cut more than one at a time. Makes it much quicker. So there are a couple of my butterflies. And I just repeated that until I had 9 total. Just going to trim this in half again and run it through one more time, or a few more times rather. Now I'm ready to add some color to my butterflies. And I've got several distress inks here and the ink blending tools from Ranger ready to go, and I'm going to use the Barn Door Distress ink first. And I'm just using the foam applicator there to add the distress ink right to my die cut, right over that embossed image. And you can see that where it's embossed, it's resisting the color. And I'm going to grab a baby wipe and just wipe off any of that ink that's pooled on top of the resisted image. Just going to carefully go right over that and get rid of any of that red ink so that the white really pops against the red color there. And the Barn Door is one of my very favorite distress ink colors. So there's what that little guy looks like. And it's just a really pretty and fun technique to make your own customized butterflies. And then I just got a glass surface for my work table, so I can just wipe the ink right off with a wet paper towel or baby wipe or anything like that. So I'm going to do it again now using the Scattered Straw, which is a nice yellow color distress ink. I'm just going to add the color right to my butterfly. And again, I'm doing the same technique as I did with the first one there. And I also did this several more times, and I used worn lipstick, frayed burlap, wild honey, barn red, and the scattered straw for my butterflies. There you can see a couple of them there. And now I'm ready to put my layout together, and I've had quite a few requests wanting to see how I layer all of my elements. And one of the main things is I don't adhere anything until I kind of have it all laid out to how I like it. Then I go ahead and put my layout together. So I've laid out just some of my basic elements here, a 4x6 photo that I just trimmed, leaving a little bit of a white edge. I like to do that a lot. It gives the photo a look of being matted. Plus I've cut down some paper and a couple of borders there you can see, and I laid my butterflies out with some buttons. But I felt like the top of the layout I wanted just a little bit more color, and I wanted to add a little bit more interest. So I had this scrap of paper from another project, and I'm going to adhere that to the top of my page. Plus it reinforces the butterflies that I've created. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere that. And as you can see, that's pretty bright and sort of busy. I love that paper, but it's a little bit overwhelming for all that's going on in my layout. And one of the best tips that I can give is, if you really love a paper but it's too intense, go ahead and layer some vellum over it, which is what I'm doing right here. Vellum just helps tone everything down a little bit and allows you to maybe use some of those papers that you wouldn't necessarily be able to because they compete with your photos too much. You can see I've also used some vellum over the yellow pattern paper too. It was too bright as well. I wanted those butterflies and the photo to really pop, and it was competing too much. I have die cut this print and cut title strip and the little block that I'm putting it on there using a digital die cut kit from Carrie Bradford. This is her side note kit, I believe it's called, and it is a really cute kit. Tons of different options there. Got to peel up my border. I accidentally adhered it, and I need to tuck that down there behind. Anyway, there's lots of different things you can do with that, plus different color options for the title. You wouldn't necessarily be stuck with this red if that's not what works for you. There's several different colors. So I can't say enough good things about that kit. It is wonderful. You'll be seeing a lot of that. I also went ahead and cut a couple more strips of paper from a paper that had lots of borders on it that coordinates with this Echo Park paper line, and adhered those below my big yellow block there in the middle. Then I die cut another one of those rectangles that came with the title, and I'm going to adhere that below, and I also added some journaling that I printed on some ledger paper. Then that little tag is from Little Yellow Bicycle, and I tucked that behind one of the strips of paper. I like to do that a lot. It adds a lot of layers. Plus you can see I've tucked one underneath the photo as well where I can record the date. And now I'm going back and adding all of the elements back onto the layout just to make sure that I still like everything and it looks good. Then I'll go ahead and sew each of these buttons to the butterfly and then attach the butterfly to the page with a glue dot and then some little foam adhesive underneath the wings to kind of help pop them up a little bit. And I coordinated the buttons with the colors that with whatever color the butterfly is. And they're all the exact same buttons, and they're from Stampin' Up. So I added just a few other things, the little clip and some little tiny brads where I punched notches in the sides of the layout. So I hope you've enjoyed this week's Stampin' Fun Friday. See you next week. Thanks for watching.